Welcome to Leopardstown.com's preview of one of Europe's most prestigious races, the Red Mills Irish Champion Stakes, which takes place here in Leopardstown on Saturday evening. I'm Dennis Kirwan and I'm joined in studio by legendary jockey and 7 times winner of the Red Mills Irish Champion Stakes, Mick Kinane. I'm also joined for a look ahead to the big race and also to the Group 1 Coolmore Fusaichi Pegasus Matron Stakes by Dave Keena, racing journalist with the Irish Field, and Don McLean, Sunday Times racing correspondent and Racing Post columnist. Mick, the Red Mills Irish Champion Stakes has a roll of honour that includes many of racing's greats, and you've had a fantastic record in the race down through the years.
Yeah, it's been very, very good to me over the years. I think I've won it 7 times, so it's been good to my bank balance, thankfully, over the years.
And I suppose the most recent one was probably one of the most special with See the Stars, Mick.
Yeah, it was great. It was his only run of the year in Ireland. It was great to come back, and it was a great occasion, and it was great atmosphere, and it was the result that sort of people were looking for, and it was a great match on the day. Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. And, you know, as you say, you won it on 7 occasions, but you had a few other near misses, probably most notably on the great Galileo and that fantastic battle with Fantastic Light. And that's 10 years ago, Mick. It's hard to believe.
Yeah, it doesn't seem so that long ago. But, it was an epic battle. I came out the wrong side of it, got the right side of it on the King George, and just got it a little bit on the wrong side this side. But it was an epic battle. It was probably one of the best races of recent times here. So one of us had to lose. Unfortunately, it was me. It
was a great spectacle. Dave, going back to Mick's victory on See the Stars, as he said, it was all the more memorable because it was See the Stars' only appearance as a 3-year-old. But it was one of the great days in Leopardstown.
It was. There was 9,000 people there that day, which was a huge crowd for a flat meeting, relatively speaking. And it was unfortunate because there was a great buzz around the Curragh Derby weekend that weekend because he was due to run and the ground went against him and he didn't pitch up. It would have been great if he had run in the Derby, but then he went on to such greatness. You know, he would have slaughtered the Irish Derby field on that occasion, no doubt. But it was a great carnival atmosphere even after the race. I think the fact that people realised that, you know, possibly it was Mick's last champion stakes, and I think they appreciated that because they appreciated his record up to then, and John Ox being so popular as well, and you know he's a likeable man, and it was just it was the result that everybody wanted and everybody expected, and they got it. And I think they treated him as if he was a national hunt horse when he came back in. The reception, I've never seen a reception like it, but it was one of those great days. And I suppose even as far as Saturday's race is concerned, you know, there probably isn't a See the Stars there, but still it's a quality lineup. You know, we've 6 quality horses there. They're all Group 1 horses in their own right, so you never know.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Don, this race is run over 1.25 miles and it has great history, and it was won by even the late great Sadler's Wells going back to 1984.
It was. It's been a hell of a race. I think Sadler's Wells, that was the first one that was back in the Phoenix Park, and then Suave Dancer won the first one back at Leopardstown. But it's, yeah, if you look down through the Roll of Honour, I mean, even some of the fillies that have won at Triptych and Park Express and Indian Skimmer, Mick won it in 1989 in Carroll House. That's going back. And you mentioned Galileo. Hawkwing was beaten a short head as well by Grandera. So Mick would have won 5 in a row if the short head and the head that Galileo and Hawkwing were beaten by had gone the other way. But he's won plenty of them. Sure, he's won probably enough of them. But yeah, it's a hell of a Roll of Honour. Like it's probably the premier flat race on the Irish racing calendar.
I'd even say it's probably as far as stature is concerned, you know, the back in the 70s and 80s and the early 90s, the International Stakes used to be the premier 1.25 mile race in the Eclipse. But I'd say the Champion Stakes, the Irish Champion Stakes, is probably now the best 1.25 mile race in Europe. And it brings together the best of the milers who don't get 1.5 miles and the best 1.5 mile horses who have the speed that you can dot them back to 1.25 miles. I don't know, would it be better now than it has been maybe in the last 10 years? It seems to attract the best of those horses, the proper Group 1 horses, the 10 furlong specialists anyway.
Yeah, and it suits the calendar really well. It's a lovely lead-up race for the Arc or for Breeders' Cup. But 1.25 miles is the distance that people want their horses to win at because it makes those horses very valuable stallions. 1.25 mile horses is probably more valuable than 1.5 mile horse for the breeders.
Like if you have a 1.5 mile horse like High Chaparral who can come back and win over 1.2 miles, it's huge. And likewise, if a miler can step up and win over 10 furlongs,
that's why it's attractive for everybody, for the milers and the 1.5 miles to go and target a race like it because it makes their horses really valuable.
And of course, moving on to this year's renewal, and Aidan O'Brien has the favourite in So You Think, who's won 7 Group 1s so far, and he's the one they all have to beat.
He is, yeah. It's hard to, from a betting perspective, it is hard to find a betting angle. But that said, he's there to be appreciated. He's a 3s on shot or a 2 to 7 shot, and that's probably a fair reflection of his chance. He's way ahead on ratings. He's way ahead on form. He's got it all. Maybe a little bit of a worry, I suppose, the short home straight. He does tend to be. Tends to take a little bit of winding up. And it is a shorter home straight than Sundowns, but where he won the Eclipse. But again, Eclipse winners have a fantastic record in this race, which makes sense that they're over the same distance, and one's kind of earlier in the season, and then they can come back and win this one in a build up to some of the later races.
Mick, no fillies won this race since John Ox's Timarita back in 1996, 15 years ago, ridden by Johnny Murtha. But the Ed Dunlop trained Jewel Oaks winner Snow Fairy should give a good account of herself, but she's a lot to find based on their respective performances in the Coral Eclipse.
Yeah, she was a good bit behind him that day.
7 lengths.
Yeah, but she first run back after a setback, so she should have come a long way since then. Showed a good bit of improvement at Goodwood behind midday, and she should be at her best at the weekend. So if there's any flaws in his arm, she's there to find it.
And she's got the considerable assistance of Frankie Dettori in the saddle. He's been riding out of his skin lately, Mick. He may be small in size, but he's a huge personality, and he'll be a big draw himself in Leopardstown on Saturday.
Yeah, Frankie's great. When Frankie's flying, he's just hard to hang on to. His short tails, he's very typical Italian, very flamboyant, but a master in the saddle. And he's a great addition to the weekend.
He'll be looking forward to the challenge.
Of course he will. Everything to gain, nothing to lose. Perfect for him.
Absolutely.
He's actually flying over he's riding at Haydock, he's riding Delegator in the Sprint Cup, and they're flying him over to ride her. So obviously, Ed Dunlop and the connection think she's got a big chance if they're flying him over to ride her.
Well, the 6:45 start will suit him certainly. Yeah. Dave, so you think is quite a phenomenon down in Australia. He used to be trained by Bart Cummings and won the Cox Plate back to back. So he's a superstar in his own right.
Well, I remember being at Punchestown earlier this year, and I spoke to Jim McGrath, BBC's Jim McGrath, and he's from Australia, and he said this horse is a phenomenon down there. He's absolutely huge, and I don't think that we probably appreciate how good he is. Like he was probably the best horse that Australia has produced in a long, long time. Now, he's come over here, and he had quite a lot to prove, but since he's come over here, he's proved it. He bolted in at the Curragh. I'd say if Ryan Moore rode the race again at Ascot, he probably would have hung on to him a hell of a lot longer than he did, and he went for his race probably too far from home. But look, they learned from that. They hung on to him a good bit when he won the Eclipse, but he's a proper horse. Now, they had mapped him out to be a huge horse. He's not a huge horse, but he's a very well-made horse, very attractive, but he's a proper Group 1 horse in his own right. Like, for people who appreciate racing, they should pitch up and see him, because the last time that they'd probably see him, because I would assume more than likely after this, the Arc, and then maybe targets either the Breeders' Cup or go back for the Cox's Plate in Australia again. So again, people, they were sorry that they missed See the Stars when they missed him here 2 years ago. So if people want to go and see probably the best mile and a quarter horse or mile and a half horse that we have at the moment, they should turn up there on Saturday and appreciate him. He's not going to be a betting proposition, but a lot of national hunt horses aren't betting propositions either, and I just don't think we appreciate the good flat horses when we have them. We appreciate the jumps horses because we see them year after year. The flat horses, they're valuable commodities, and they have a job to do when they finish racing. And I think it's vital for people just to get out there and and turn up in their numbers and appreciate what they have there. He's a top class horse.
It looks a 2-horse race on paper, but Dermot Well's famous name is a useful performer, Mick, and he's won multiple Group 3 and listed races, but this is a step up in class for him. Yeah,
if the weather is going to be unkind and it gets softish, and he's running at his favourite track. I don't know how many he's won around Leopardstown, but he's won an awful lot. So if weather conditions turn softish, then he's a horse that could swing a surprise.
Don, moving on to the Matron Stakes, the Coolmore Fuziichi Pegasus Matron Stakes, and Aidan O'Brien won this for the first time last year with Lily Langtree, and he holds a strong hand with Misty For Me, and together they were first and second in the Irish 1,000 guineas.
He does, yeah. Misty For Me, she's a worthy favourite. The Irish Guineas winner who won the Pretty Polly last time, beating Midday, and people said, Shamie Heffernan got a solo out in front and they left her alone, but what she did to Midday, like, she quickened away from her. The ground was probably just on the easy side, maybe little bit too soft for Midday, but she's a top class finish. She's won the Nassau Stakes and won the Yorkshire Oaks since. So, and Misty For Me to beat her as a 3-year-old, to beat such a high class older filly as Midday was It's the best form that's been brought into this race. But there's a couple of other horses there like Dermot Wells, Emulous, and Lolly for Dolly from the Tommy Stockyard. I mean, Aidan just might not have it all his own way here.
Yeah, Dave, there are 8 decent fillies in the race, so it has the makings of a cracking contest, and Emulous is fancied, and she loved the ground.
And she's very lightly raced, and she's had a relatively light campaign. Like a lot of these fillies, especially the 3-year-old fillies, they've been on the go since early in the spring, whereas with Emulous, she had a run early in the spring, but she's been relatively lightly raced since then. She was very impressive when she beat Lolly for Dolly in a Group 3 at the Curragh, and she pitched up again. Okay, she beat lesser fillies at Ferryhouse, but she did it very well. She's very lightly raced. She's only ran 9 times in her life. She's won 4. It's her first try in Group 1 company, but Dermot has had this race in the back of his head for her for a long time, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if she put her up to the favourite. It's hard to know where the pace in the race is going to be. I'd imagine maybe Ballybaca Lady, she might make the running. It would probably make it easier for Misty for Me, but Misty for Me was hugely impressive when she won the Pretty Polly. She destroyed proper Group 1 fillies. She's won 4 Group 1s as well, and she's the only consistent Group 1 performer really that you could say in the lineup. Lolly for Dolly, there's question marks over her after last run in Tipperary, and Wild Wind, she probably isn't good enough together. She's been placed in a couple of classics as well. She should run a reasonable race, and Mick might know something about Amina. Trying blinkers on her for the first time. She's very likely raced. She disappointed in the Irish Guineas, but she put her up to Lolly for Dolly in the Athassy Stakes earlier on this year. It's competitive, but if from a betting point of view, it's difficult to get away from Misty for Me. The way she won the Pretty Polly, dropping back to a mile wouldn't be a problem. The way she won the Guineas, I think she's the one to beat.
Yeah, Mick, Amina, Dave mentioned Amina, there's plenty of strength and depth in this race.
There is. Amina was lame after the Irish Guineas, so it was a little bit disappointing run, but there was excuses for it. She had a little disappointed at Leopardstown last start, just got beat. John felt that she needs to step up a bit, so they've tried blinkers on her. It's a big race, big opportunity. Group 1 place, or you never know on a day. So a better run expected for her. She could be placed.
She deserves to take her chance. And finally, Mick, just a quick word on obviously another big event for you over the weekend. Tipperary in the hurling final on Sunday. As a Tipperary man, no doubt you'll be rooting for them to complete the 2 in a row.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. They were pushed all the way by Dublin. They looked a little unsharp the other day because they'd probably 5-6 weeks off. So that tough game would have done them good. And it should be a great rerun of last year's final, and hopefully Tip comes out on top.
So that's our look ahead to the Red Mills Irish Champion Stakes in association with GoRacing.ie and Leopardstown.com. My thanks to Mick, Don and Dave. And if you're making your way to Leopardstown, the first race goes to post at 20-4, and we hope you back plenty of winners. Goodbye for now.